Another huge topic when it comes to currency is that the US and I think all other countries went away from the gold standard. Why did that happen, and what implications does it actually have? Is it? I think there's a lot of fear around it still, but
Yeah.
is that logical?
So again, it comes back to like what you think money is, which we haven't really spoken about, right? So let me give you two views on this. Let's take what's called the MMT, modern monetary theory view of this, right? The reason you have money is so that the government can provision itself to do the stuff that it needs to do, and it does that through taxes. It's kind of weird if you think about it that what you do as a citizen is spend the first 5 months of the year earning enough bits of paper or electronic tokens to hand them back to the people that print the paper and make the electronic tokens. Right? When you think of it that way, it's a bit weird, right? So there it is, right? So that's one version. The other version is a much more metal based one. It says, at the end of the day, we don't trust governments. We don't trust them to run things, and we want to have security. We like assets that other people think also have value. Gold has no real value. A bunch of people think Bitcoin has value. It doesn't. But if enough people think it does, right? Simple as that. So we have these things that we have as our stores of value. We then tie these things to currency because basically taking gold to the baker shop's really inconvenient. So we have a central bank that has the gold, and then we issue a certain amount of currency on top of that, and we're very transparent about our holdings and how much currency there is in circulation, and that gives people faith in the currency, etc. Right? That worked, quote unquote, for a certain period in history, from about 1875 to just before World War One, and even then it was getting ropey. Why is this? Loads of different reasons. Number one, if the number one rule of government is to stay out of the economy and never screw around with the amount of currency in circulation, how do you respond to a banking crisis? Bit of a problem. You just can't, right? What if there's a big macroeconomic shock that's got nothing to do with people being weak or lazy, and a volcano blows up and devastates crops? Should the government run a budget deficit? If it does, how does it do it if it's on a gold standard? Because it would need to have more gold to back it up. That would mean doing more exports. But if everybody's on the gold standard at once, everybody tries to do exports, which means nobody's importing. What does that mean? Everybody cuts the price of their exports. As they cut the price of their exports, what happens? You get deflation. Welcome to the 1930s. There's a reason that John Maynard Keynes called this a barbarous relic. There's the meaning in the two words, and people don't pay attention to this. Barbarous because when it is in less than ideal conditions, it leads to barbarous behavior amongst the countries that are on it, as they all try and hoard the gold so that they're okay while everyone else is screwed. The problem, fallacy of composition, what's individually rational is collectively disastrous. If I try and hold all the gold, there's no gold for you to hold. What are you going to do? You're going to cut your prices further. That in the short term will allow me to buy more stuff from you, but there's only so much stuff I can buy. And besides which, you can't anyway because you don't have enough gold, right? It's a spiral, right? Second thing is it's a relic. Why is it a relic? Because it's in a sense something from the past. I mean, when the United States was setting itself up, it was a federal state, it had territories, it had no central government, it didn't have a central bank until 1913. So how did it have money? It literally imported gold, silver from China, and it exported stuff out the other way. And then it imported that money, and that money became the base of circulation of currencies like the Virginia dollar and the Kentucky whatever, right? And it was only when you had the Civil War that you get national monetary union under the greenback, and that's under extreme conditions, right? So how then do people have faith in things? They have faith in things like gold, silver. The 1896 election, mankind will not be crucified on a cross of gold. McKinley. What was that all about? A fight over whether America should have a gold standard or a silver standard. And part of what the gold standard gave us was a legacy of thinking about money in terms of gold, which frankly, by the time that you'd gotten to the 1920s, was broken and was never going to be fixed again.
At the time where the US and also a lot of other currencies or countries were on the gold standard, isn't that kind of like as if they had the same currency? So
In principle, yeah, absolutely, because my currency should be exchangeable this 2 years at a fixed value from now to eternity. That's the basic idea behind it. And in theory and in practice, being on a fixed standard like that, like having any type of fixed exchange rate, is pretty good for trade because I know if I sell you BMWs now, when I get the money back, it's going to be worth what the contract said, right? There's no
Mm.
volatility in this relationship, right? Because it's backed, right? And that's good. But the problem is the downside outweighs the upside, which is you just get these huge deflationary effects, particularly in very shock prone, highly complex economies. Because the way those shocks transmit through a fixed exchange rate standard or a gold standard is that essentially you end up with a kind of deflationary effect as everyone tries to cut themselves into prosperity.
Is if gold and now the dollar in it holds no value as only that we believe that it
Right, same as
holds value.
Bitcoin.
Exactly.